So, Mike, there's just a couple of other things that I just wanted to very quickly touch upon. Of course, we've talked about Sean Hannity, and of course, another person that you've name dropped in the book a couple of times is the late Mr. Tarek Fatah. And of course, for me, he is somewhat of a familiar figure because he was a Canadian, and I was in Canada for a while. And I confess that I'm not entirely familiar with all his work, but you've also butted heads against him a couple of times. So for our viewers and listeners who may not be as familiar with the late Mr. Tariq Fatah, and he's no longer with us, of course, but could you just very briefly tell us where your two ideologies were at odds with each other? If you could just walk us through that very quickly.
Tarek Fatah was an opportunity, and he found a niche. If he start bashing Muslims, he will gain support from some Jewish quarter, not all Jewish, some Jewish and some Christian quarters. He earned that with them, and he bashed Muslims. I'll give you this short story. I was sitting in the front at the Capitol Hill Muslim Day. That was the day. I was sitting in the front. I wanted to see what's going on. So Tarek Fatah was one of the speakers, telling you his ideology. He was there, and I was sitting at very front, because I always do. Normally, when somebody speaks, nobody interrupts them. I don't do that. He started speaking and points his finger at me. My name is Gun. I go by my Mike. And he points, Muhammad, the Muslims 5 times a day pray and curse Jews and Christians. Isn't that right? And I said, no, it is not right. And he said, this is what the Quran says. And I said, Tarek, you're wrong. That is the mistranslation. You know the right translation, but you're saying this for some gains. You're wrong. And then I turned to this guy, I forgot his name. I said, you know the truth. Tell the translation of that verse. He corrected Tarek Fatah, and he was very ashamed. Then he says, and he was so stupid and dumb. He tells there were Jews of the 25 some people, there were about 12 of them were Jewish people. While the Quran is written from right to left, as if that was an evil thing. I was hoping the Jewish people would stand up, you dumbass. Sorry, my language. You dumb guy. Jew is also written from right to left. So he gained support and funding and putting on pedestal by bashing Muslims. I took it back to him. I had urged many Muslims in India, don't condemn him, but go head on with him. One-on-one, fact to fact, he will lose. And he did lose with me.
Correct. Well, thank you for sharing that, Mike, because I hadn't read his book, but I was somewhat familiar with him 20 years back, and this was right after 9/11, and so I was wondering, well, who is this angry Canadian man who's always, bashing his own community? So I was way too busy with my studies to delve deeply into what he was up to. But I do remember a couple of years back, when I saw the two of you, go at it. You ended one of your articles by saying that he shouldn't mess with me. I'm a Texan, something like that. I think you might have said. Right. I thought that was quite interesting, and I was thinking, oh gosh, our Canadian representative must have made a meal of whatever this Texan man had done to him. So yeah.